on your courseware downloads, there is a microphone reference, an old-fashioned microphone. And I saw some videos, people were using MeshFusion to build something like this, but there was really no tutorial, so I thought it would actually be a really good lesson of something we could build, and just kind of get you going, understanding how the MeshFusion interface works and some of the tools. So we use that as a reference. So let's take a look at this real quick. It's primarily a box, but it's kind of curved in the front, kind of curved on the sides. So when you're doing this, you need to build your initial shape for most things. You really have to break down your model. One of the biggest things I found working with MeshFusion is really just planning. It's not so much in actually cutting or adding or putting things together. It's actually just really defining those meshes so the shapes come out right. So we need a kind of a curved shape here along the sides. We obviously need the main base here, so let's start with that. So I'm going to go to File. We're going to close all. We don't need any of this. Now I'm going to build it. However, if you open up under these Fusion Meshes tab, you open this up, when you install M901, install the content, you actually get a whole bunch of meshes to work with. And in fact, this one is really just kind of spot on. The only thing is I want to actually show you how we would build something like this. It's relatively simple, but just gives me a good example to use a few tools. So we're going to go to Basic, hold the Shift key, add a cube. Press the R key for scale. We're going to scale that up about like that. Polygon mode, Shift D, do a faceted subdivide, then hit the Tab key. All right, so you get primarily the same shape. I'll press the D key on its own one more time, just like that. From here, I'm going to take the polygons on the top, W for transform, and just kind of move them up a bit, like that, just to create a little bit of that curvature. And then we'll do the same for the bottom. They don't have to be exact. The bottom's a little bit flatter, so I'm not doing it as much. Now I want that front to stay flat, but I need a little bit of curvature up here. So that's why I kind of wanted to build my own cube, just so I had a little bit more control over it. Okay, mine's a little bit too tall, so I'm going to press R key for scale, scale that down. And you could probably go find blueprints of a microphone and trace over it, but we're just going to freeform it. All right, so that's looking pretty good. All right, everything's quads. Now, remember, Tab key actually gives me a subdivide. We actually want to press Tab again, then hold Shift Tab, and we mouse over it. Now we have green highlights. That means we're in multi-res mode. And multi-resolution mode means each one of these polygons can be subdivided even further. We can get even more detail out of each one, and that's really what's needed in order for MeshFusion to work. When we get into sculpting, you'll see how important that is. So down under the Fusion tab, we want to create a new fusion, of course, but we need an object. So right now we're going to call this mic base, like that. And in order to build those cuts, let's go ahead and see what our geometry has for us. Now we can certainly build one, and the thing is, there's something already very similar in there that would work for us. Most of these others probably could, maybe even this one. Let me just take a look at this real quick. I don't know how well the sides are on this one. And let's turn this off so we can see it. Yeah, that might be a little too flat for us, and even if we scale it up, no, maybe it'll be okay. That might actually be okay, because what I'm looking at is this curvature right here. We want that curvature. That's actually what's going to cut our sides. I'm going to press the D key one time just to subdivide that a little bit more. The reason I'm doing that is sometimes when you put objects together, there's not enough geometry, and you get some weirdness. You get kind of looks like a broken Boolean. So we just want to make sure we have enough geometry in there for that to work. So now let's take a look at this. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cuts with good header, good footer. So if we take a look here, we could probably fit this starting right about there. Control space, we can go to a front view if we want, or control space to a right view. And can we fit 8 in there? I think that'll be just about right. So what we're going to do then is in polygon mode, not in item mode, we want to go to deform, duplicate, clone, and we can use in between if we want. In between means if I select between, click and drag. So I want one here like this. I'll put this just opposite of that other one, like that. And then I hit the number of clones that I want. It will evenly distribute them. Perfect. Spacebar turns that off. Control space back to perspective. And we can actually go to a front view. W for transform, and let's move that just to about there. Now take a look. See, we're going to have that space. Now, here's the thing. Do we cut all the way across and add that in? Do we try and cut one and not the other? I'm actually looking at this, and if you notice right up here, we want to cut all the way across and then add this bar back in because we want to have that nice smooth edge up there. So we'll come back here. Move this like this to center. Oh, it doesn't reach. What are we going to do? Well, let's just stretch it out. Stretch is going to work. Now, it does stretch those curves a bit, but it's not going to matter because the sides still have the right curvature here. So let's go ahead and save this. I'll save it as old mic 1. Okay. So there's our mic base. We can even call these cuts. We want to select the cuts. Hold the shift key, select the mic base. Go to MeshFusion. We want to do a new fusion. Subtract first from others. Okay. Click to deselect that. And there's our cuts. Now, they're looking a little bit too large compared to this. So, not really a problem. We don't have to undo anything. We'll select these. I'm going to go to polygon mode and double click each one to select. So, they're all one item. But if I select polygons, go to Action Center and change it to local and press the R key for my scale, what will happen is I'm able to scale each one because I'm using a local Action Center. So it's looking at each set of polygons individually. And if I can see those in there like that, maybe just a little bit more, just scaling down on the top, and there we go. Okay, looking okay. These could be a little more round, and that's the one problem with the way I scaled those. So that's okay. Let's see if we can fix that. We're going to undo, get back to our selection, press the R key for scale, and I'm just going to scale it like this, but then move it in. Because when I flattened it, it flattened out those curves. And now they're round again. So I just rescaled it on the opposite axis, which was Z, I believe. On the X, actually. So we're going to save that. So that's what's wonderful about MeshFusion is that it's really easy to edit. When you make a cut in regular Booleans, you end up destroying your model, essentially. And you can't go back and adjust it. So with this, works out great. So we'll save that. Now, it probably could be pulled out a little bit more. I wanted it somewhat flat on here. I needed a little bit of curvature. But how can I do that? Well, we'll go to Edge Mode. And we'll double click this edge like this. Press the R key for scale. And then we're just going to scale those out. Uh-oh. See what happens? It's all right. It's not a problem. We'll come back here to the cuts, select move, and we'll move those forward. So, really good, useful, MeshFusion, powerful. It's great. All right, so save that. Now we can alter this for the back and for the top. So the top and bottom have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And of course the back's going to be the same. So I'm going to right click, duplicate this cut, W for transform, and let's move it to the back. Control space to a right view, and I went right to this first edge here like that. Okay, and I think we go a little bit more on the sides. I'm not going to worry about that for the time being. Control space back. How do we add this in? Well, we can take this group right here, click, hold with the left mouse, and drag on top of that bottom red tree. And that now adds to the cuts. And you can see both of those added into the tree. save. Cuts, I'm going to right click, duplicate those. E for transform on the rotation, that channel that is. Okay, so we're going to rotate those around, and let's rotate them 90 degrees. Go into properties. So for this, we only need 6. Is that what I counted? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're a little bit bigger. So we're going to go turn these off for the time being so we can see what we're doing. Oh, and I should point out one of the big things is as I'm building this, here is my final MeshFusion. It starts creating an item down in the bottom of the interface. So we need 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we just have to come in, select that polygon. So we'll go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll cut those away. Get back here. I'm going to rotate these around. Oh, let's get back to item. Rotate it around as an item, not as a polygon. And that would be 90 degrees. We'll enter it in perfectly. R key for scale, and let's scale those and then move them forward. So now we can go ahead and even look at everything just to get an idea of what it's looking like. Control space to a front view. W command for that item. Let's get out of local. And for these, we're going to need those. Notice they're a little bit larger than the front slats. So let's get them in place just like that. Yep, that'll work fine, just like that. Go back to polygon mode. Run your mouse across, press the right bracket key, 2 over from the P, it selects everything. R key for scale, action center can be set to local again. Grab that center round local and you can scale those up. W for move, and we can move those up just about like that. And I like to look at it from perspective just to see where everything is. And we'll pull those back. Let's make those go right to the center. All right, so I'm saving that scene. Rename this top cuts. And then I will click on item mode, click and drag it into my subtract. And there's the top cuts. Nice. And it doesn't affect the other geometry at all. Okay, let's do one more and we're done with this. Duplicate that top cut, control space to the front view, and then let's just drag it down just to about there. Same thing as the top, just right over that top edge like that. Do the same thing. And then control space perspective. Okay. Item mode. Turn off that and click and drag to subtract. And there we go. Now it looks like it's getting a little busy and the tree might be in the way. So if you right click on the root of the tree, which is this little guy right here, actually not even right click, just click on it. Sorry about that. You'll get a number of tools in here. And one of the main things is the move tool. So turn that on. You can move this away if you want. And you can just move this tree. Just click and get that out of the way. Very handy. All right, so let's take a look at this. We're going to save it. Go over here to render. Okay, looking very nice. Might be a little too round. Might have to work with our edges a bit, but I'm sure you can do a very nice job on your own. And then we can cut the back sides. But let's move on to the next video and create that interior and that front strip. And how can we go ahead and add this little detail in here now since we cut those all the same.